Hi, Rachel Mead here, president and founder of Enhanced Prep. Thanks for joining me today while we take a look at this GRE verbal question that is on text completion. The first thing I want to remind viewers of is remember that if there's more than one blank that we have to fill in on a text completion question on the GRE, it is an all or nothing in terms of points, which means even if you get one of the blanks correct, if you miss the other one or other two, because there can be questions that have three, you still get 0 points overall added to your point bucket. So it's really important that you're prioritizing this question in terms of when you're going to do it with your personal order of difficulty as you're moving through the section. Some students might find other question types easier to work on in the verbal module than this particular one. But let's come through and let's make sure that we understand our approach on how we're going to tackle this. So we're going to pay attention to what part of our text relates to the first blank and what part of our text relates to the second blank. So given the extent in which ergonomic design of office furniture positively, very opinion-based word, supports the human body well-being and consequently employee productivity, it is blank that industrial psychologists are remaining effectively mute on the subject. So what do we have going on here? Hey, we're saying that the ergonomic design has a positive impact on these four different things um, with our productivity. However, they're mute on the subject, which means they're not talking about it. Interesting. So maybe something a little bit surprising to us, like if it's so positive, why aren't they talking about it? And then we have the next sentence that is relating to our second blank. Instead, they wax on in academic papers about the blank of inefficiency in the workplace. So they talk about it a whole lot about why things are inefficient in the workplace. And we have a big transition coming into play here. Whenever we have blanks on either side of the transition, remember that that transition is helping us understand the relationship. So that instead is telling us that we have a great big contrast. Now, in this case, I feel that the second blank is a little bit easier to tackle than the first one. And I want to pay attention to what we have here. So we're seeing that these psychologists, industrial psychologists to be more specific, are waxing on. They're talking a whole lot about the inefficiency in the workplace. Well, let's take a look at the words that we have down here. Now, if vocabulary is not your strength on the GRE, and I'll tell you most people really, really struggle with their vocabulary. Get your stack of your 200 note cards, and every time you're practicing questions or you're coming across a word that you don't know, make sure it's going on the note card. You want to come back and you want to work on finding those definitions, working on your sentences afterwards, but right now just work on getting the word down on the front so that it's easier for you to come back when you have some study time to fill them in. We've got causes, we've got incarnations, and we've got bones. Now, there might be a couple words that you're not as familiar with down here. If we're taking a look at boon is when we're adding something positive to the mix. We want a boon to happen because it's going to come through and it's going to talk about a thing that is helpful or beneficial to the process. So I'm just going to put a little plus here to tell me this has a positive meaning. Is that what I'm looking for? Positives of inefficiency? No. So we want to make sure we're eliminating that answer choice. Incarnations, that's like when we're viewing something, like maybe we're envisioning it with our mind or with our eye, or it could be to embody something. Incarnations of inefficiency in the workplace might be a little bit weak. I'm not too happy about that. But then I see causes about the causes of inefficiency in the workplace. Okay, we can certainly see that that is a much better fit here for us. Okay, so now again, we need to remember that these two sentences, the blue sentence and the purple sentence, are contrasting. Let's come back and let's see what we can do with our first sentence. Given the extent in which we know these things positively support the human body, well being, and production, it is something that the industrial psychologists are not talking about it. So, again, here I'm looking for something surprising, something I'm not quite sure why it's happening. I want to make sure I'm speaking for myself to help myself out here in terms of getting this in. So it is unlikely that they're remaining mute. It is discomposing or it is manifesting. Well, manifesting definitely doesn't fit here at all in terms of its definition. Now, one of the ways that the test writers are trying to trap you potentially is with this word right here. Discomposing is different than decomposing with a DE in front of it. Decomposing is like when something's rotting in the backyard or, you've got your compost pile that's breaking it down. To discompose means that you're allowing something to, you're causing something to lose its composure. Right? So if it's losing its composure, it's like agitating or uncomfortable. That definitely makes a whole lot more sense here, right? Because we're expecting it to happen. So it's surprising to us that they're remaining mute. So I'm going to go ahead and I'm going to select discomposing and I'm going to select causes. So again, take on whichever blank you're more comfortable with, work on speaking for yourself to fill in that blank. And remember, just because your text completion questions happen first in your verbal module, that might not be the best place to tackle them, especially if there's more than one blank. Thanks for joining me. We'll see you soon.